Hi, I'm Joanie Marks, and welcome to an aha moment with Joanie. And as you will see, I'm wearing my safari outfit. That's how I describe it. And in the last episode, I talked about my bucket list trip to Africa, which I took in 2023. And we were talking about the bigger picture of how people interact with the animals. And I said that in this episode, I was going to talk about what I learned from the lion and the lionesses in Botswana. And so, but I want to start with what I'm wearing because that's very important. When you go to Africa, you can't just pack anything you want. They give you a duffel bag, a tiny duffel bag. And they say, and I was gone for a month, and they say, everything that you are taking, your clothes, your cosmetics, your medicine, your protective gear, your cameras, everything has to fit in 44 pounds. That's not very much. And there's a reason for that, is because when you are in Botswana and you're going from a game camp to another game camp, these are quite a distance and there's no way to do these on roads. So these are done in little planes. My first experience, they're Cessna, 12-seater Cessnas, and they take off and they go to where there is a concrete runway. And the only high-tech thing besides the concrete runway is a stanchion with a windsock on it so they can see how the wind is doing. So that's how you go from one place to another. So to do this, you have to really want to share in this experience. So I'm sharing with you, and you don't have to do all these things. You can just come along with me. And as you see, I took all these plane trips on these tiny planes, and I got there and I got home in one piece. And the reason the clothing is so important is you see how this is green and this is kind of blah color? That's because you want to blend into the background. You don't want the animals seeing you before you see them. And also the clothing, I sprayed this with a bug repellent, and this is also good for sun protection. So those are in very important considerations. And basically, when you go to Africa, there are really two seasons. There's the rainy season, which has its charm, and there's also the dry season where it's not raining. I chose to go in September, which was the dry season, which is definitely warmer. So having material that helps with sun protection is very important. So that's the background of this. So when I got there, I want to say each of these camps that I went to are a little different, and you see different animals there. And the one where I'm going to talk about, the lions, the landscape had lots of palm trees on it, which definitely surprised me because I think of palm trees where I live in California. But there were a lot of palm trees there. And what was interesting about them is that the baboons know how to shimmy up to the very top of these palm trees, and they just sit up there and look down at you. So there you are. So we got you there, and we're staying in a tented camp, and they take care of your laundry. So you really don't need a lot of clothes. I think I had like 3 changes of little outfits. I probably could have done it with 2. And that's how you can do all this with such a small amount of clothing. So you get awakened in the morning about 5:30 in the morning because you need to be up, you need to have your breakfast at 6, you need to be in your Land Rover at 6:30 to go out, which is called game runs. And the Land Rovers have open, there's no windows. So you climb up and they're a little bit higher. And what's good about them is that the wildlife recognizes these Land Rovers as just nothing. They could care less about them. So as long as you do not stand up, because if you were to stand up in a Land Rover, you change the look of it. So as long as you are sitting there, you can talk, you can eat, the Land Rover can be going over twigs and breaking things and making noise. The animals don't care. You are of no importance to them. You are not a threat, and there's nothing they're interested in eating. So that is how you get around. And so you go on these game runs from 6:30 in the morning, because that's when the animals are up eating, until about noon. You come back because that's a hot part of the day. You have your lunch, take a nap, and then in the late afternoon when things cool down, then the animals are out and about again doing hunting in the early evening into the night. Now, the reasons the predators hunt at night is because they're less seen. It's very hard for a predator to sneak up on a prey during the day because there are all these other animals who signal with their unique alarm signal. Like I was talking about the baboons. Well, they're up in the palm trees and they can see the lion trying to stalk along after a gazelle, but they do the alarm call. So every species, all the gazelles, all the other birds, all the other mammals, know each other's alarms. And what happens when they do an alarm? That was very interesting because I was on the plane and in front of me was maybe about 200 impala, and they stood stark still. They didn't move when they heard the alarm, and they all pointed in the direction where the alarm sound was coming from. And the males with their big horns made a V at the beginning, and all of the rest of the herd was standing there, stark still, to see where the predator was, what the alarm was. So basically, that's why predators hunt at night. I think it would not be their preference, although predators do have better vision than their prey animals do, even at the nighttime. So that gives you a little feel for you're out and you're seeing how are these animals reacting. And what I learned from the lions is so many wonderful things that pertain to exactly how you and I live our lives, because these animals have to hunt for their livelihood. They do not willy-nilly go running off to hunt something or chase something. They are very careful about where and what they go after. They only have so much energy. They can expend only so much energy in order to find their next meal. So they don't go chase after things they don't feel have a high percentage of possibilities for them actually snagging that meal. It's very hot. The game drive that I went on, that I actually saw this lioness make a kill and feed her family thereafter, this whole thing took an entire day to play out. So I want to kind of take you through that. So in the morning, so this was about 7:30 in the morning, on the slight knoll are two lionesses. And I need to say, lions live in family groups. When you see lions, they're not odd animals that are just hanging out together. Lionesses live their entire life in this same pride. So these lionesses were two sisters, and between them, they had 5 cubs, 3 males and 2 females. And when the males, these 3 males, get to be adolescent, they're kicked out of the pride, because you don't want to have intermating, and they have to go out and start a new life, whereas the females always stay together. So in a pride, you're going to have like grandmothers and mothers and sisters and cousins. These are blood relatives. So these two lionesses were just hanging out, except in the distance, they saw this pride. The pride saw this family, which were three adults and one child, one young baby. And as soon as she saw them, she perked up, stood up, and went, And I said to the driver, what is she thinking? They're so far away. I think in retrospect, these this prey was in her territory. So these are not random animals that she's seeing either. So I think that her instinct was that she had seen their behavior before, and I think she felt that they were very uncaring toward that baby, and so she took off towards them. Her sister, the other lioness, went in the opposite direction. I didn't see them communicate, but she took off. And then we spent about an hour and a half as she was making her way closer and closer to her prey. And when we saw her again, she and her sister, the other lioness, had separated the prey from the adults. They ran off. They just ran off and left this baby. So the lioness is now very close to her prey, who is standing there not sure what to do. And so they are within 10 feet of each other. And I said to the driver, Reuben, why isn't she doing something, the lioness? Why isn't she going after the prey? And he said, she can't. She has to wait. I said, why does she have to wait? Because she has to see which way the prey runs. Because if she takes off and kind of goes at a right angle, the prey will go the other way and she'll lose out. So this is something that I went, wow, we as human beings are so impatient. We can barely get through, a 60-second video. This lioness was, every muscle in her body was tensed. She was staring at that prey, yet she had the discipline to know that she couldn't move until the prey did, and however long it took, she was going to have to stand there, which she did. And then finally the prey moved, and then she chased after it. And then finally, when she made the kill, it took a tremendous amount of physical effort because she had to make several attempts. And then while she made an attempt and she was on top of the prey, along came this huge elephant who saw her laying on top of the prey and lunged at her. And she had to jump off the prey, otherwise she was going to be smashed by the elephant, who then kept going. Then the prey got up. Then she had to go and chase him down again and kill him so that her family would have a meal. She didn't do it for sport. She did it because she had a sister and 5 babies. So there were 7 of them that needed to be fed. And then she went and laid under the bushes for a long time because it was so expenditure of energy. She was just exhausted. And it was, by this time, it's like almost noon. And we've been watching her making this kill since 7 about 7:30 in the morning. These things don't just happen like they seem to on animal channels. It's a long effort. And so she had to go lay down to regain some strength. Then she came back and pulled the prey into under the bushes to be out of the way of anybody else coming by. And then she had to rest some more. So what did we learn here? We learned how much effort it takes. You think these are big, strong animals, but they are aware of how much energy it's going to take them. They're aware of what their chances are before they even make one step in the direction of a prey, what their chances are of being successful. They have to calculate what their risk of being killed by being knocked in the head, by being gored, by being stomped to death. Those are all real possibilities. So they have to weigh all these risks before they go after a prey. So she succeeded. Then she rested. Then this is the part that as a mother, as someone who cares about their family, you will just relate to this. She went back and started calling her family to come to eat. And they go kind of mm, mm. And they do it very softly and they do it intermittently. But then she got mixed up in her head where her family was. She thought they were back to the left, which is probably where they had spent the night, but they weren't. Reuben and I and the driver said, "Where's she going? That's not where her family is. The family's to the right." And so she is going in the wrong direction. And then she's starting making the sound louder and louder and more frequent. And you can see that she's getting more and more upset because she can't find her family. Then the the cubs come flying from the right direction, which is we knew where they were, up to her, and then she leads them to where the kill is. Now, what happened next was very unusual because in the hierarchy of how lions live, the male lion eats first. Only in this scenario, there was no male lion there. And then the lionesses, and the very last to eat are the cubs. But in this situation, her sister showed up. I don't know how she knew exactly where she was, but she did. The sister showed up, and the two lionesses are laying as barriers between the kill, the bushes behind them, so that they are allowing their 5 cubs to eat first. Truly, this is unusual because lions have a very long lifetime. And so that the cubs survive is less important to the survival of the species. So in most cases, if there's anything left, the cubs get it. But in this case, what I'm saying, what an amazing mother and aunt. They allowed the cubs to eat first. So that's sort of what I'm sharing with you is the idea that these animals have a difficult life, but they're very family oriented. They take care of their cubs. They understand what it is that they do, and they know how to provide food for their family. And what we also have to understand, compared to us who has so much food that's left uneaten, nothing in the wild is left. Because after the lions eat, then there's all the other animals that come. There are the hyenas who come, who have these huge, strong bones, and they cart off the carcass and the bones and chew them up. There's the jackals. There's the vultures. there's the other birds that come. There's the scavengers that come. So that when we came back in the afternoon, they were still eating at the kill. But the next morning when we came back to the spot, it was like nothing had ever been there. It was all consumed. And so they take care to only hunt when they're hungry, and they take care to be sure the whole ecosystem is sure that everything is used up and nothing is wasted. So think about that. I want to share with you what I learned next in another episode, what I learned from the elephants. And so remember every morning to look into your mirror, smile at yourself and say, I am my own best friend. For I came into this world to be myself. For that I came. And I know how to live my life. The same way the lionesses know how to live their life if they're given the space and the freedom to do it. Thank you and all my best.